Hey, it's Conor here on the roof of IESE Business School in Barcelona. And here, to succeed at anything, to achieve anything important for you in your life, there are three things that are necessary for you to make progress towards achieving something that is important for you. The three things you need in order to achieve a goal, achieve an outcome, are state, strategy, and story. State is the state you're in, the emotional state. If you're in a positive, resourceful state, you're likely to take action. If you're in a frustrated, bitter, angry state, you're very unlikely to take action. Strategy, a map of how to get to where you need to go. And story, the things you're telling yourself inside your head of whether you deserve it, what you're scared of. So these three things, if you want to achieve anything, you only need to fail in one to fail to make progress towards a goal. So if you want to sabotage yourself, you don't need to sabotage all three. You just need to screw up on any one of the three. So let's start with state. The state of mind. You wake up some mornings and you feel resourceful. You feel ready for the day. You feel ready for what life is going to bring to you. There's other days you wake up and it's not quite there. And for me, looking for recipes of how we change our state. The question, how quickly can we change our state? And the answer is really quickly. For me, listening to a song, thinking of someone that inspires me, one of the questions that I'll ask someone that I can see is sort of with their head down, a bit demotivated with whatever, is say, hey, on your phone, what's your favorite photo? Can you show it to me and just explain why that photo means so much to you? And when you ask someone to show you their favorite photo on their iPhone or on their mobile, the moment they start searching and they pull out the photo, their state changes, their face changes, they light up. So it's quite easy to change our state. And we're often fairly aware. It's an easy access to determine what state you're in. Second, strategy. I think strategy, to achieve anything, there's very few things that you want to achieve that nobody else has ever done. You know, maybe Elon Musk trying to get to Mars. No one has done it yet. But for most of our objectives, whether it's to be fit, whether it's to get a promotion, whether it's to get our project approved by the board, there's other people who have done this. And there's a roadmap for success. And there are perhaps some roadmaps for how to fail it. So, when someone comes here to IESE for 2 years, they look at how others have achieved good outcomes. We do cases, and a case is looking at how a company or a leader achieved an outcome. And what we learn are many, many, many strategies for how to succeed as a leader, whether as a leader of a team, a strategic leader of a company. But I think strategies are quite easy to find. One important thing is don't ask people for advice. Ask them to talk you through what they exactly did. And the strategy is not just what they did, but how they overcome the obstacles and kept on path when things were getting difficult. So to me, first, state is quite quick to change. Second, strategy. Every book has a strategy to overcome something. There's a lot of strategies out there. So it's quite easy to get a hold of a strategy that is a pretty good way of achieving the outcome that you're looking for. So it's kind of easy to change your state. It's kind of easy to find a good strategy. The third thing, the story. The story you tell yourself about whether you deserve this, about what you're scared of, about what you should expect out of life. I think the story is where we can really screw ourselves up. The story we're telling ourselves. The problem with the story is you're so inside your own story, your own set of limiting beliefs, that you're not even aware that it's a story. There's an email that came out from Oliver Burkeman, the author of 4,000 Weeks, which to me is one of the best books I read 2 years ago. If you haven't read 4,000 Weeks by Oliver Burkeman, it is a powerful read and really helps wake you up to this wonderful finite life that we live. But Oliver Burkeman, his email this week, talked about a kind of pedantic story. And the story was along these lines. It said, imagine a goose inside a bottle. And the neck of the bottle is too small for the goose to be able to get out. Now, there's enough oxygen, enough space for the goose inside the bottle, but the goose is trapped inside this bottle. And the question, how do you get the goose out of the bottle without damaging it. And I think if you think about this for a moment, if you imagine a goose inside a bottle, how would you get it out? And as you think about how to get it out without damaging the goose, I want to tell you the answer to this puzzle. And it's almost a koan, one of these Buddhist reflections. The answer to how you get the goose outside of the bottle, imagine the goose is outside the bottle. So it's imagination. I didn't tell you to imagine that the law of physics work, to imagine that there's no way that this glass bottle can. So if you're imagining a goose inside a bottle, I didn't ask you to imagine that the law of physics work in that imagination. I didn't tell you that it has to be a real goose inside a bottle that follows the laws of physics. Our imagination immediately comes up with limitations on what is possible in this world. And in our own lives, this pedantic story of the goose in the bottle, there's a lot of things that we just choose to not see, a lot of options we choose not to see, a lot of possibilities we choose not to see. And the problem is we're not choosing not to see. It's happening at a lower level than our consciousness. We're just not even aware that other paths exist. And for me, this idea that we're so locked inside our story, our fears, our story of what's possible for us, what we call our limiting beliefs, the things we must do or have to do, that it's so difficult to take them and change them because you're not aware you're inside your own story. And to me, why we fail to achieve the things that we set out to achieve, I think it's very rarely to do with us not being able to put ourselves in a state where we can make it happen. It's very rarely to do with us not having access to a strategy that we know could give us the result we're looking for. It is a huge amount to do with the story we keep telling in ourselves that we end up self-destructing our path to this. So for me, the reflection this week is, if your state is the wrong state, find the tools to shift yourself to a positive, resourceful state. If you don't have a strategy, if you have no map to get the outcome that you're seeking, go find someone who's achieved what you're looking to achieve and get their roadmap. But the third thing, be very careful of your self-sabotage through the story you're telling yourself. And the rules you've decided that you must obey, how much are there things that you're imagining and how many of them are real? And it is so hard to deal with our personal story because we're living inside it. So a bit of a metaphysical, existential reflection here, but the story we tell ourselves, the story of what we must do, who we must impress, what we must be, it's a story. It's an imagination. And the same way that you can imagine the goose outside of the bottle, there's a lot of rules and limitations and restrictions that we're placing on our own lives, that they're in our mind, they're not in the world, they're not in other people. It's us self-sabotaging through the story we're telling ourselves. So if you've got the right state, you've got the right strategy, make sure your story is not sabotaging your ability to get the results that you want for yourself and the people close to you in your life. So anyway, reflection here from IESE Business School in the Aula Magna here this week teaching the Gemba program. Thank you to you for your likes, your comments, your questions, for subscribing to the channel. And it keeps me taking this camera out, making these videos. Have a good one.